Hello and welcome to What the F Just Happened Today, your essential guide to the daily shock and awe in national politics. I'm Joe Amditas. Let's get to it. It's Wednesday, December 15th, 2021. Welcome to day 330. Talks between Joe Biden and Joe Manchin reportedly soured over the size and scope of the climate and social safety net legislation on the table. Manchin continued to push for spending reductions, including eliminating the measure's expanded child tax credit, which is a federal program that sends monthly tax credit checks to roughly 35 million families who have young children. The final child tax credit payments went out today, and the program is set to expire at the end of this year unless lawmakers reauthorize it as part of the Build Back Better Act. But Joe Manchin denied that his resistance to the bill was related to the inclusion of the child tax credits and told reporters, quote, "I'm not negotiating with any of you all, okay? This is bullshit. You're bullshit. Okay, I'm done, end quote. Chuck Schumer, meanwhile, hasn't said whether he'll delay work on the bill, but the unresolved disputes with Manchin make it increasingly likely that Democrats will miss their self-imposed deadline to pass the legislation before the end of the year. Moving on, the House voted to hold Mark Meadows in contempt of Congress over his refusal to cooperate with the committee investigating the Capitol riot. The former White House chief of staff initially provided numerous documents to the committee before abruptly stopping his cooperation with the panel a day before his scheduled December 8th deposition, claiming executive privilege. The matter will now go to the Justice Department, which will decide whether to pursue criminal charges against Meadows. Before the vote, lawmakers shared a series of text messages from Fox News personalities as well as Trump Jr. and unnamed lawmakers, which were sent to Meadows while the pro-Trump mob was storming the Capitol, urging him to get Trump to end the violence. At least a half a dozen people, including Representative Jim Jordan, reached out during the riot to Meadows to get Trump to intervene. Meanwhile, a federal judge dismissed Trump's lawsuit seeking to block Congress from obtaining his tax returns. In April of 2019, the House Ways and Means Committee Chair Richard Neal first requested 6 years of Trump's returns to review the effectiveness of the presidential audit program. A federal law gives the chair of the committee broad authority to request anyone's tax returns. The Treasury Department, however, had refused to provide the documents at the time, and the Trump Justice Department supported Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin's refusal to turn them over. Trump's lawyers immediately appealed the decision to turn them over to Congress. Separately, Trump's longtime accountant testified in New York before a grand jury that's investigating Trump's financial practices. Donald Bender helped prepare Trump's taxes and the financial statements that were used to obtain loans. Back in D.C., the Senate rubber-stamped a $768 billion defense spending bill. Biden is expected to sign the measure, which will increase the Pentagon's budget by roughly $24 billion beyond what the administration actually requested. The House, meanwhile, passed legislation to raise the federal debt limit by $2.5 trillion, sending the bill to Biden for his signature. The Treasury Department had set a Wednesday deadline to extend the country's borrowing authority, saying that it was using so-called extraordinary measures to delay the threat of a default. The action came a week after party leaders reached a deal to allow a one-time-only change to Senate rules that would allow them to increase the debt ceiling with a simple majority vote instead of the 60 votes that are typically needed to move most legislation through the Senate. The $2.5 trillion figure punts the threat of a potential U.S. default until after next year's midterm elections. And finally, the CDC warned that the Omicron variant of the coronavirus is rapidly spreading across the United States, and that, quote, everything points to a large wave, end quote, coming as soon as January. The CDC detailed a triple whammy scenario where an Omicron wave coupled with Delta and influenza cases could overwhelm healthcare systems, especially those in low vaccination areas. While the Delta variant remains the dominant strain in the United States, making up about 96% of sequenced cases, the Omicron variant now makes up 3% of all COVID-19 cases in the country, up from less than 0.1% in early December. Omicron has been detected in 33 U.S. states so far. In Europe, Omicron is expected to be the dominant variant by the middle of January. Based on the available data so far, health officials say booster shots of both the Moderna and Pfizer coronavirus vaccines are likely to offer substantial increases in protection against the Omicron variant. And in the polls, Monmouth University says 60% of Americans feel worn out by how the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted their daily lives, and 45% say they feel angry about it.
That's all for now. You can find the links and sources for all of these stories on the main website. And as always, visit whatthefjusthappenedtoday.com for the latest news and headlines. Until next time, I'm Joe Amditas.